Hello, Something Ghouls and Goblins. This is Something Guy 912 back with yet another odd architecture vid weekly and in line with spooky season. Following from D1 underscore town underscore 01A is D1 underscore town underscore 2, a doozy of a map that we technically broach in the campaign twice, but we can get to that complication when we cross it. With that out of the way, let's scrutinize some more. Alright, and we are properly in the map. Once again, bringing up the Matt underscore Fulbright situation. I got a single comment saying that I should probably alternate between it and using the normal flashlight. But I don't want to do that because I don't want to, like, flashbang my audience. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a hassle for me to constantly pull up the console to put in that code again when permanent. I only did that one time for that particular texture in D1 underscore town underscore 01. Just to show just kind of how silly it looks when, you know, put on blast like that. Or to show how it wouldn't look silly when you put it on blast. So with that out of the way, we can actually discuss this map now. As I will continue to keep this as Matt underscore Fulbright 01. Or 1 in that case. So, immediately to the right of entering this doorway, obviously the flat zombies are getting their attitude, but obviously they don't see me. We have this peculiar catwalk, railing balcony thing that is just kind of incomplete, and I'm not sure what this is here for. I don't know if this is a place where I think a few fat zombies appear for Grigori to shoot at from, where you come up from, but I don't think they do. Not to mention the fact that it's right above this portion of fencing too, surprisingly not colliding with it. And there's a lot around this little section of the map that is really, like, strangling in terms of just the amount of space. So, like, for another example, we have another set of catwalks and railings that there's essentially no rhyme or reason to it in terms of where it starts, where it ends, where the railings go. Like, there's just no reason for this to be here. Again, I think this is only purely here to have fast zombies jump on top of it so that you can understand that they are a lot more mobile than normal zombies are. And then down here, we walk. Supposedly, this is a sidewalk that you walk right into a railway. And as you can see, there is no way to stop somebody from just walking onto this rail and just getting barreled by a fucking train coming across here. Especially if this is also a portion of street that they supposedly have cars drive around in here. But we'll get to that when we get into the map a little bit farther. But yes, there's basically no way to stop anyone from just getting crushed by a train. As far as everything else in relation to that train, I don't think there would be anything hitting it, but I don't know, maybe these pipes are a little awkwardly close to where a train would be. I might, you know what, actually, let's investigate for real. Let's see if I can find a train prop and then come on. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, yeah, I don't think that's gonna work. It'd have to be a particularly small train, as you could tell. Yeah, we'll just get rid of that real quick. Get out of the way. Just figure I'd just, you know, do my due diligence on that. And then, as this railway ends, we have this series of boards that just obviously block it, just, you know, not to go farther, but the boards don't reach to the top of this weird geometry of this warehouse here. And I don't know why. Like, it's really garish in just the amount of space between here and the roof like this. Especially given it's already blocked by another series of boards. So I don't know why they didn't just get rid of this and just leave it like that, if it just already ends like that arbitrarily. And of course, you know, not to mention the fact that this is supposedly a sidewalk where you can just also accidentally just trip into the railway like this. So we will now go into the building proper, where we scale up. We have the first floor, which is kind of beset with a bunch of washers, but no dryers. Funnily enough, I think these are all washers. And if they're all dryers, then the opposite is true, that they're all dryers and no washers. You know, not sure how anyone gets their clothes done in Ravenholm, or how they got their clothes done in Ravenholm. And then most of the rest of the first floor is fairly practical. I mean, calls into question the presence of all these boxes, but again, probably just for the sake of the gravity gun. We go up the stairs here, and there's this little section where if we go close, or obviously they don't see me, so if no target was set to off, this zombie would break these boards. Now, this is another example of odd architecture in relation to enemy placement, because why would the zombie just be perfectly set, like, content with just being around here? Like, I feel like if there was something in his way, he probably would have broke these boards before we arrived, but they decide to only break them when we arrive. And not to mention the fact of what the hell this room even was for. It's like this tiny little side cubby. Like, maybe it's a storage room, but there's nothing in here to store. Especially given the complimentary room seems fairly, I guess, like maybe just some kind of small living space, or again, just possibly for more storage with these boxes and this small closet here. Obviously, it's just kind of just a slaughter zone for more zombies, if I'm being honest. And then we go up into here. There's nothing to say about this kind of upwards portion leading into the roof. It does kind of remind me of the roof section in the one of the train station maps, especially the one where the rebel or the civvy kind of like holds off the CP officers from shooting at you. That's kind of what it reminds me of, but like considerably scaled down. So we'll go up to this roof. Obviously he's shooting at them with his apparently electric buckshot, because again, they make electric sounds for some reason. And then of course we go over here, and once again Grigori's in a place that is impractical from the last time we saw him from, which would basically be somewhere towards that white building. If we go by the geography of the last map in which we saw him from. And then, of course, he's going to hand us a shotgun. Don't really need it. And then he'll, you know, plop out of existence and appear in another place that seems utterly impractical. And then we got to deal with all these zombies. Now, presumably he expected us to jump down into this water tank up here because of these boards, like beset by these boards and whatnot. Okay, they don't see me. He's having fun. So I guess he expected us to jump down into this water tank because of those boards right there. But if we jump down, we go up this ladder. We have another set of ladders here. Now this doesn't make sense in relation to these boards, because they somehow stop at this point, when realistically they would just go all the way down here if the point of this ladder was to get up to this portion of the building. And now I'm just seeing it too. You see that? You see how part of the rail doesn't even like touch the catwalk like this? Now I'm just kind of seeing it up close. But that's kind of small potatoes. And then we go up to this portion of the roof of a different building, and I really do not know what is the practical usage of this building. Like, supposedly some kind of factory or whatever, but it feels like it's just purely exists for the sake of being a holdout section, where you have to just deal with a series of fast zombies as they also crash in through the roof here. And not to mention, I'm not sure why why would there be a ceiling of windows that look like the kind of windows you would put on the side of a wall, you know, with these like weird divvies and whatnot, or panes, I guess you would say, not divvies, but yeah, panes. Now I'm commenting on it. And then Obviously, we had to wait for the slow-ass elevator to get up, and then we press it and we go down, and we also get a nice little introduction to the poison zombie. Now, this ladder is fairly odd because of just kind of how open it is in terms of like your ability to move around. Like, there's nothing stopping you from like reaching your hand out through these bars or whatnot, or touching the walls. So it kind of makes me think this is an elevator for loading in goods or whatnot, but as to what and for what reason, again, I could not tell you. And of course, when we get down to base, we have this small cubby in the back. Again, not sure what this is here for. And then this base of the elevator has this huge lip between the ground level. Like, as you can tell, you need to go up on, like, these boards in this car to get back down to the street level. Again, not sure why. It's especially daunting because right adjacent to it, we have what seems like, loading bay doors or something like that, which would probably make sense for there to be the lip, but not in pertaining to the base of this elevator, if they expect, like, workers to use it to get up here for whatever reason. And also, with the presence of these cars, implies this is an area that people would drive in, especially in a place where, as you can see, the street just ends into this small gravel pit and the water tower and the train and the pipes and all that. Like, I mean, I guess that's why the fence is there, but I feel like the fence is here not because they're trying to stop traffic from going into this area, but more so to stop us from just essentially blasting through this map. Although I've seen a few older streams, like speedruns, where people just literally just shoot themselves with the SMG grenade to get onto these roofs here, and those will be important for later. Go back down, and not to mention, even if this is supposed to be the area where you're supposed to drive cars in, this area is extremely tight for a car to fit in. I mean, I think these cars can fit in, but obviously it's going to be really hard for them to really, like, shift it, like, right or left. This is almost practically an alleyway, when it probably shouldn't be. And then this little section here where it starts to kind of converge ever tighter. And again, this is probably by design to make things tight for the sake of gameplay. It's just obviously practically this would not be a sensible place to have cars in for Ravenholm with its overall design so far. So we jump over onto this fence, onto this grassy area. We see this upward section of rails, which is complemented with a series of double doors, which, oh, wait, is that? I don't think that's the texture just repeating itself on a cropped out section. I think that's something else, but regardless, it doesn't really make any sense, especially given that it goes from here to here, and the inside of this is, like, there's no reason for this to exist. There's essentially no rhyme or reason to it. I guess it's just supposed to look, I guess, ominous and foreboding. And then we go to the right here, and this would be where the map would end, but we go back to this map after you go through the entire excursion in D1_town_03. And in my head, I originally thought, maybe I should just do this map in 2 parts, so as not to be confusing. But I feel like that's going to be more confusing than if I just tackle this entire map in one fell swoop. So that's what I'm going to do, is we're going to ignore this and just continue on with the remainder of this map when we get back to it. So we get back to this map from, I believe, from here. I believe it loads in from here. Now, obviously, there's no zombies. The zombies will appear in D1_town03 when we get to that. And the reason that we had to go through that whole excursion is that this door was stopped by one of those crash bars that you see in schools. Like, apparently it's called a crash bar door, where it only opens from one side. And you can even see that it's open like this. And it's closed when we initially come from this side. So you had to go through that whole thing just to open a door. And I don't know why this door would be this, like, this kind of door would be for this, like, room or the facilities up above here. Because it just seems like a weird, like, living space with stairs and a rail and this, like, attic portion here. We had to deal with a bunch of random head crabs and boxes and whatnot. So, yeah, I could not tell you why that door was used, other than for simply for the fact of not making it easy for you to get through, essentially unavoidable for you to go through D1_Town 03, as well as to get up onto this roof. But that's all that it's there for. So we scale across here. I guess these boards were set by Grigori. Ooh, oh. Yeah, I already scrutinized that before. And as we scale across some of these roofs, you can kind of see the very, like, fun house design, like crooked house design of this building texture, as you can see. Like, the roofs don't align with the architecture of the buildings like this. Obviously, it's just a solid texture. It's just obviously when you kind of see it like this, it's very apparent how it doesn't really coincide with anything. And then we have this whole section here that seems to be just purely for the sake of flavor, with this, like, chateau and small kind of, like, walkway place here. And so, I mean, most of this seems cohesive. It's just, again, it's just extremely tight. Like, barely any means to just drive around, for one thing, and to walk around as another. And to the left here, we have this small roadway that seems to lead into a mission. I mean, I guess it's a church, but I think in Europe and, like, South America, they call them missions. And the left side of this mission is oddly not very well detailed. It's just kind of this empty landscape of trees and a rock here. And I'm not sure why they made this area not very well textured, when I think you can kind of see it from, like, certain vantage points, but I don't think there's a whole lot of vantage points where you can kind of see it, so that's probably why they did that, and possibly just for hardware limitations at the time. And another thing that is interesting to me about the left side of this building is over here we have this untextured doorway and building, and this untextured building and doorway looks eerily similar to the area you go into at what would be effectively the end of the city part of Ravenholm, mainly the end of D1_Town_02A. And it might be interesting to try to scrutinize whether this would make sense for it to be here in relation to what you go through in that map. But maybe this is just a coincidence. Maybe this just, I don't know, was just put here as flavor, and they didn't really have any expectation of somebody to, like me, for example, to scrutinize it like this. And I guess now I'm just seeing it now. Immediately to your left, you see a portion of fence that is just clipping right into this rock like this. Just a lot of little fun things you can find as you're not only taking notes, but as you're just kind of going through it live, like this. So we will backtrack, as obviously we're not supposed to go there. We're supposed to go over here. Again, I'm not sure why this weird base portion of, I guess you could say it's like a factory, would have this weird lip here and just seemingly no rail for this portion. We'll go up here on this series of catwalks, which again just seem to have an inconsistencies in terms of where catwalks end and start. Especially here, you see that? Like, it repeats multiple times where there's a small gap between the end of this rail and this rail. Like, multiple times it seems repeated. I wonder if they didn't have the means to complete it, or if they were to complete it, it would clip, like, partially into the stairway like this. And, of course, no rails here, and again, I imagine they just did that so it makes it easier for fast zombies to hound on your ass. And then we go up into this random building that just seems vaguely empty and not particularly useful. Seems like just a small roof thing. And we go up into this trapdoor into another roof, where we have another holdout section. And again, Grigori makes his presence known in a place that is impractical, not only when we go into D1 underscore town 03, but even without covering that map, it still makes no sense for him to appear here from the last time we saw him over there at that yellow building. And as for this roof, as you can see, there are a series of fences blocking our way, and they are inconsistently placed. They do not complete in certain areas, but complete in other areas. They just seemingly stop here. In fact, the roof is covered by rocks too. I don't know, like, who would design a roof that would just be partially beset by the natural geography like that, but also just seemingly stop at this little portion here rather than just completing on the end here, if the idea is they don't want people accidentally falling off of this roof, but whatever. And the holdout section is this little crane operation thing. Obviously, Grigori doesn't see me, so I can't really engage with this in the natural way, but it is interesting they did ultimately bring back the pulley system in the beta version of this map, but just obviously in a less limited fashion and not as, I guess you would say, like, oh, I guess it is working. Not so much in a, I guess you would say, like, I don't know what you would say, like, grandiose fashion, where, like, you're crashing into boards and crashing into zombies with it. But yeah, normally there'd be zombies going at us, but they don't see us, and then we can engage the, I guess, handbrake, as he says it. I'm guessing this was probably of his design, but maybe there was a practical reason for this pulley system to be at the top of this roof and to the side portion of this church or mission. And, you know, not to mention the fact that the wiring for this pulley literally clips into the fence like this. Yeah, obviously he's pontificating some more. As for the rest of the design of this mission, I don't know. It's hard to state how much of this was of Grigori's design or the natural design of his church, but just kind of looking at it, it is a little bit perplexing with the random fencing here at the end point of the pulley system, this small little ladder, the thin pieces of board holding this rustic portion of metal and the fences. Like, yeah, it's a little bit jarring. And with that, that is it for D1 underscore town underscore 02. And that is it for that map. Again, tune in next week for another art architecture on the Ravenholm Chapter.